Hi, everyone. Welcome to another episode of Connections with TalentStore. Today, we have Gladys De Silva from ACS, and we're going to be just chatting about what they do, how they add value to the market, and just to get to know them a little bit more, right? So, welcome, Gladys, to the show.
Thank
Um,
you, Arun.
you
Thank
know,
you for inviting me.
sure. Uh, I think we can just really start off with just understanding how you guys came about, right? When did you guys get started? Before the call, we kind of got talking, and I understood you're also from HR. So I'd like to know a little bit about the background and how it kind of led you to ACS.
Right. Okay. Perhaps I should just introduce a bit about my background. So
Sure.
I come from sort of like a varied background. I started off more in the bank. Actually, if anyone goes through my LinkedIn profile, they'll realize I
Okay.
started off in the bank. Eventually, I got into HR. I started off at operational level and moved up to more of a strategic function
Okay.
whereby I used to be the head of HR in some notable PR agencies, like
Okay.
Gerson Mastella, Edelman, and the most recent one was Citrine. Thereafter, in between, I also moved to the consultancy line, whereby I was providing HR services for my clients. So I did that I actually went into it in year 2020. So if I were to count back then to now, that's roughly around 3 years. So I'm not entirely new in the industry per se.
Yeah.
I started off ACS basically last year as a side hustle.
Mhm.
And we officially went full swing in early this year, in January 2023.
Okay.
Yeah, the company is relatively new, I have to say that, but I've already been in the industry for quite some time. So the reason why I actually wanted to start something on my own is because I felt that I have my network, I have the people that
Okay.
I closely deal with, and also I have my clients.
Yeah.
So it was really a calculated move. So it wasn't something that I just decided to jump into it and start something on my own.
Yeah.
I carefully evaluated what were my strengths, what were my weaknesses. So I did a bit of a SWOT analysis on myself as opposed to
Sure.
doing it for others. So that's how I got into it.
Okay.
Yeah,
Cool.
hope I answered
I
your
mean,
question.
yeah. When I went through your website, I also kind of noticed that you guys not only do training, but you do recruitment. You also do some consulting on the tech rollout for HR systems and stuff like that.
Right.
And was that primarily driven by your own HR experience, and that's why you wanted to offer all these different solutions to clients?
Yeah, so I have basically managed the full spectrum of HR before, and I felt that I also didn't want to put all my eggs into one basket. The
Right.
initial plan was, of course, to focus on training and development, but my passion is actually in connecting talents with opportunities. So I actually
Okay.
really enjoy recruitment a lot among the full spectrum of HR. So I wanted to actually provide. Something for the clients from the start as when an employee comes into the organization. So it starts with recruitment. And then how do you
Sure.
look into developing your talents? So that comes under talent development. Talent
Hmm.
advisory looks more into talent retention. So how do you retain your employees within the organization? As in having the right structure, systems, processes, and all in
Yeah.
place. Yeah, and also looking into disciplinary issues. So that's where industrial relations comes in. So all that falls under the talent advisory component.
Okay.
So from the time we've started, we've gotten quite a good stream of inquiries coming in more on the talent development front. So I've been getting quite a lot of inquiries on trainings and also team buildings. We've done
Yeah.
quite a bit from the start of this year. In fact, we have some upcoming workshops as well coming up
Right.
till end of the year. So I wouldn't entirely say it's been 100% good. It was a bit slow in the beginning, but it's
Yeah.
picked up. I think we had very close festivals early part of this year. We had CNY,
Yeah.
we had Hari Raya, we also had the fasting month. So all that amounted
Yeah.
to a bit of a slowdown. I think May onwards is where we started getting a lot more traction on the talent development front.
Yeah. I mean, yeah, I completely agree. I think that's also what we noticed. The first quarter of the year was very, very slow, right? Across the board,
Yes.
lah. Even when we talk to some of our other partners, um, we tend to see the same trend. And I think one of the value propositions that I see from ACS is really that blend, by having that recruitment side, which is such a critical part for organizations, by also having the training. Um, so when you go and talk to clients, for example, are you predominantly positioning yourself as a training provider, or more as a full suite? We can kind of advise you with all the different elements of HR. Is that how you're positioning? Just for my clarity, lah.
Yes. So basically, we tell clients that we are HR solutions provider,
Okay. Yeah.
whereby we cover the full spectrum of HR. And then, of course, we need to actually find out from the client what exactly they're looking for, what is their area of need, and then we try to fulfill it accordingly.
Okay. Interesting. So when you talk about training per se, is there anything that you're specifically very focused on? Is it mainly just soft skill stuff, or is there something that you really are very strong at?
Okay, so the four verticals that we have in training, with training per se, right? So we look into
Yeah.
leadership, communication, HR, and also IT based trainings.
Okay.
I wouldn't call it so much soft skills. I think a bit of technical involved as well.
Yeah.
And if the client were to inquire for something that is out of these four verticals, we also provide that as well. So it really depends on what the client is looking for. And I would say that what we've focused, or rather what we've gotten a lot of inquiries on among these four different verticals, is more on the communication and HR based trainings.
Okay.
Yeah,
All right.
that's what we've had so far. But of course,
Yeah.
we're hoping to get more.
All right, right. No, so that kind of leads me on to the next question, right? I mean, you started this year in the beginning of the year, um, and the first 3 months or so were pretty slow across the board. Well, what would you say are your big challenges? Like, so if you have a grander vision in mind, what would be some of the key challenges that you see not only impact you, lah, but what you've heard from other providers as well? Is there something that you are specifically challenged with, that you want to see solutions for in the future?
I would say that when I started, I guess the biggest challenge would be in terms of branding. So
Okay.
previously, when I worked with other consulting agencies, they've been around for at least 10 years in
Mm.
the market.
Yeah.
I was also involved in business development when I was there, and I have to say it was easier to get clients then. Reason being because they have an established name in the market. So when I
Yeah.
came out and started on my own, I had this perhaps disillusion, thinking that I could repeat my success on what I did before.
Sure.
Unfortunately, it was not. I did a lot of branding activities from the very beginning. I realized, so like I mentioned earlier, I did a SWOT analysis, right? So I
Yeah.
already knew that was the weak point. So I worked on my website, getting my corporate profile up. In fact, I recently revamped the website. I didn't like how it looked like before. I mean, it looked good
Okay.
at that point in time, beginning of the year, but now, after some time, you just want to like put in additional features.
Yeah. Yeah. That's it.
Um,
Yeah.
and I think the plus point that we have is I actually got a lot of support from my past clients. In fact, my first few clients were people that I have worked with in the past.
Sure.
As opposed to what some people say, you don't poach clients from my previous company. I did not do that for the
Yeah.
benefit of my bosses who are probably watching this. So the clients approached me directly, I was very upfront to say that I'm no longer working for company X.
Yeah.
Please approach them. And they said, no, Gladys, the reason why we approached you before is because of you, and now we're coming back to you again. So I think in that sense, I've been very fortunate to initially My first few clients were actually my past clients. Some of
Okay.
them I'm still doing some projects with them after this.
Yeah.
Yeah, so that actually gave me a footing at least in the market, and from then I started getting in more inquiries.
Yeah. No, definitely. I think your story is kind of similar to a lot of the providers we speak to, including us, right? So when we started, also we had one of the big challenges of building a brand, right? And I didn't come from the industry. I came from a completely different industry. So like you literally know no one. So one of the reasons why we wanted to build Talent Store is we kept on hearing from a lot of training providers that leads, sales generation was a tough element, right? Especially in a competitive environment where you have thousands of providers. And that's why we thought maybe TalentStore could be that bridge, right, to connect customers and suppliers. Um, but then obviously, when you have a digital marketplace, the challenge is how do you stand out, right? How do you position yourself differently? How do you continuously add value and get better and better quality ratings, right? So eventually you become a lot more in demand. So it's not a story we haven't heard. Actually, a lot of providers say that if I had more leads, I will definitely grow this business, right? Because I'm confident in my abilities, but the leads are the problem, lah, right? Because there's so much competition,
Yeah, yeah,
right?
exactly.
Yeah, yeah, that's great. I mean, another point I wanted to ask you on is like, where do you see, given your 20-year plus history in HR and in learning and development, where do you see learning and development going in Malaysia? Like, if you were to go 5 years into the future, right? Are there certain things that you would like to see that happen in the country, right? Given your experience.
Yeah, I think HRD Corp has done a very good job because the levy they recently switched it from 5 years to 2 years, right? The unutilized
Yeah.
levy. You don't utilize it
Yeah.
within 24 months, so it gets burned.
Yes.
And unless you have an certain amount of money and then they leave 10K behind,
Mm.
and also the part where they actually open this up to all industries. So I
Yeah.
feel companies generally they have the funds within them to actually spend for training. The question now will be why are they not doing it? So if I were to look back at my experience, I did face this issue before, especially so I worked with SMEs and also MNCs. So
Okay.
SMEs normally they do not like to send everyone for training because there's always that question. If I send, say if I have 30 headcount in my office and if I send everyone, so I'm going to lose business for that day.
Sure.
And the solution that I proposed before, and I think should go out to all SMEs as well, you don't necessarily have to send all 30. You can always send maybe 2 or 3 to a public. So this is where public workshop
Sure.
comes in. So you send
Yeah.
2 or 3 people, and these 2 or 3 people needs to come back and present to the balance 28, 27, or 28 people in your workforce. Perhaps
Yeah.
you can organize something like a lunch and learn session,
Yeah.
whereby everyone then gets the benefit of the training. But if you're asking me about how training will be 5 years from now, I guess it should be centered more around AI and also chat GPT, those sort of trainings. In
Okay.
fact, that's the workshop that we're having next month, something that
All
is
right.
centered around AI.
Mm.
Reason being because that is the in thing, that is the future of the workforce, and that's where people are heading to, versus
Right.
offering all your conventional trainings like I don't know communication skills, leadership skills. Some of
Yeah.
these things can actually be learned. If you're
Oh,
adventurous enough to go into the internet and search up this information, which I'm sure everyone is doing that right now. Yeah, so I would say that the future of training should be centered more along these lines, and perhaps
okay.
the mode should move. So during the pandemic, everything moved to online, and then we are back to physical now. But I see the up and coming trend now is more on hybrid learning. So
Yeah.
you have your trainer standing in front, addressing a physical crowd, but you also at the side.
Have a virtual audience.
Yeah, you have a virtual audience as well. So I think that will
Right.
be the future of the
Okay.
training.
I mean, yeah, I think from our perspective, definitely technical training is going to be important, but I think I think the soft skill side is still going to be there, right? Because I think ChatGPT and AI kind of remove some of the lower value added roles, right, which can
Yeah,
be fully
that's true.
automated, um, and so the roles that remain are your high value added roles, right, which still require a lot of soft skills to really to get the value out of that role, right? So I think they will
Yes.
still be there. It's just a matter of having that blend between having technical and soft skill side.
Yep.
um, Great. I mean, just a last few questions. um, you know Given that in Malaysia the market is so big, and it's kind of mandated by HRDC, where you have demand and supply, uh, how do you try to position yourselves or ACS in terms of differentiating yourself from the competitors, right? That it can be kind of difficult, given the amount of competition out there. But is one of your big value propositions your 20 years experience in the field, the experience you have by going through some of these pain points yourself, as you were on the other side of the coin. Now you're doing some of the trading. Is that really the value proposition that you're trying to get clients to buy into?
Yeah, I mean, I do realize it's a very competitive industry. In fact, when I
Yeah.
got into it, I also approached my close contacts. They also advised me not to get into training and development. Reason
Okay.
being, there are too many players in the market. But I still wanted to do it. So I'm basically a risk taker. If you notice my posts on LinkedIn, the ones I've been posting regularly,
Yeah.
so I did put one point that I am a risk taker. For me, it's like if you have something in mind and you want to do it, just go ahead and do it.
Sure.
Whether it fails or succeeds, um, that's what
At
without
least you
doing
have a goal, lah.
your
Yeah.
business is going to succeed.
Yeah.
Yes, I do differentiate myself in terms of being a HR practitioner, and I don't want to put down the other training providers, but
Sure.
I
Sure.
see that lacking quite a bit in the market. You have some setting up companies from the start, so they've been a training provider all this while.
Yeah.
They don't really understand the pain points of the clients. So the clients that we deal with are predominantly HR practitioners. So when they
Yeah.
tell me things, for instance, I need to get 3 quotations before I decide. I understand where they're coming from because I've been there, done that, and I understand why they need the three because sometimes you are headquartered in
Yeah. Yeah.
countries like US, Germany, and so on. So
Sure.
where
Sure.
there is a requirement from HQ.
Yeah.
And the other thing is that this is the first question I tend to ask clients if they approach me for training. What is their key objective? Why do they want to conduct this training? There must be an objective. The reason why we ask them this is because we want to make sure that we fulfill that need.
Yeah.
So my whole idea when I get in a client for a business,
Yeah.
I don't believe in this touch and go concept where I just do once and that's it, done. I always try to go in for repeat business. And how do you do that is basically, first of all, you need to touch base with the client, find out what exactly is their objectives, what are
Okay.
they looking for this training, and then do a follow-up session. Ask them, did we fulfill your need? And if there is anything else that we can do to help you, and maybe come up with some other solutions, because we've been I always try to attend the trainings that I organize. Of course, I get my trainers to conduct the training, but I sometimes, or rather most of the time, I will be there as well. Reason
Yeah.
being because I want to feel the audience, I want to feel the client, and to see whether we are really achieving what we want. And yeah, and then to, of course, that follow-up part, I think is very crucial, because we want to make sure that we fulfilled what the client needed, and hopefully the client will call us in again for the next
Okay.
training.
No, yeah, definitely. I mean, it always makes more sense to go deep with a client, right? To be able to serve them in different ways versus than just being very transactional, right?
Yeah.
No, but I think definitely I think there is saturation in the market, but by having more transparency, you tend to see the quality providers stand out, right? And I think customers are becoming a lot smarter about their choices of vendors and suppliers that they work with. So
Yeah.
it ultimately, I think it comes down to your execution, comes down to your quality, um, and if you can shine through those kind of facets, then I think you can really rise to the top lah. So it doesn't matter if you're a small company or a large company, you have a segment that you can win in, right? It just is how you position yourself, right?
Yeah. That's right.
Yes. So thanks Gladys. I think we definitely got some insights about ACS, about yourself as well, some of your background. um, if there is any last things that you want to say to the audience in terms of what you guys do, go ahead. This is the last few minutes, but you know uh, yeah, we are super thankful for you for being on the platform on Talent Store. Our goal is really to one day fully digitize the entire landscape. So for a customer, they can go in, they can find anything they need within that HR corporate training landscape in one platform. And yeah, they can get all their codes, their RFQs, everything done on one platform, right? So that's the ultimate goal. And you being one of our partners is just enabling us to achieve that in the future, right? So I want to thank you for that.
Thank you.
And looking forward to growing the industry with you.
I think Malaysia is very much a relationship-based marketing sort of concept. So
Right.
I feel you need to connect with people more. It could be online. So if you notice, I like to mention LinkedIn a lot because I'm always on that platform.
Yeah.
I think it's important to connect with people socially as well as attend networking events to really get to know people, and
Yep.
also to maybe reach out to platforms like yourself, like Talent Store. I think what you're doing is great, where you're trying to connect training providers to potential clients, right? So we
Yep.
shouldn't just focus on one area of how to get business. We should
Sure.
really diversify our efforts. And yeah, so I think end of the day, what clients are really looking for is what sort of value can you bring to them,
Yeah.
not so much as an individual but also as the training provider itself, right? What can you provide to them that really benefits them individually as well as the organization.
Sure. All right. I mean, yeah, I completely agree. So thanks again to Gladys for being on the show with us. For the audience, we are running this program once a week where we kind of bring in new partners, people new to speak to, just to get their perspective of what they do, but also how they add value to the L&D industry. So stay tuned. We have something coming up next week, and we hope to be pushing this out every week going forward, so that you guys understand a little bit more about who we have on Talent Store.